So I've got the 2 layers of glass. I've got a 8-ounce unidirectional and that's E glass, and I've got some S glass here. It's about an 8-ounce S glass underneath. And first I'm just going to put this graphic that I printed on a rice paper. I printed it onto a rice paper with the inkjet printer. So I'm going to get it nice and wet. And I'm going to think about which way I want this to be. I want it to be that way. I'm going to take the squeegee and just sort of squeeze the resin out that I put in there. So that's that end. Got to be careful moving these around that we don't wrinkle things too much. That's one. Okay, so I've mixed up 300 grams of resin, and I use a fast hardener, so I basically get it all on there right away. And then put a strip, and I'm just going to move it around. I'll just leave that upside down. And I'm just going to not worry about it soaking through yet. Just get the whole area covered, because it'll soak through on its own. So I can get this all done pretty quickly. And then I'll have to be more careful and get all the bubbles out as I go. But for now, I just want to let the resin soak through everywhere. Okay, so the only thing now is that I want to make sure I get all the air bubbles out of here. So you'll kind of hear it crackling a little bit as bubbles come out. And it's worth just spending a few minutes getting all the air out, because I'm actually, my pump, my stronger pump is not around. I'm going to do this with a shop vac. All I need it for is clamping pressure, but you can't expect it to pull a lot of air out of this laminate, so we've got to make sure we get all the air out just with the squeegee. And it looks like I've got it fairly wet. I guess this S-glass doesn't soak up as much as I thought it would, so it's going to ooze through the holes in the board a lot. Okay, so it's all wetted out, and I'm using my guide to my center line to carefully place it in the right spot. That should be it. Make sure that it's okay in terms of it's all wet out beyond the rails. I just put something heavy on there for now, and now I've got to get the plastic laid out over that, and I'll get the tape. Okay, so I've got some vacuum tape that I'm just going to lay down the edge. It's important to have kept it nice and clean here, where the so that there's no resin on here, no fibers or anything that's going to affect the good bond here. And this tape is actually very stretchy, so I can stretch it out. Okay, so we don't need the weight on here anymore. I've just got a hose in either end. I actually don't even use a breather, because the air can move quite well around this, and I just got to make sure it's all sealed. I'm not quite sealed yet. Okay, now if this is going well, you will see I've got my resin coming through my bleeder holes. And I've just got to keep an eye on that. I actually have a hole in the hose of the vacuum cleaner, so that I can always feel air flowing through. You put your hand down here, you can feel it's not getting too hot, and it is able to get some air, because that's what stops it from overheating. And this will be neat to go on with the resin I'm using with a fast hardener. It's about 4 hours. Okay, I've sanded where the resin bled through onto the top. I've now got the 2 layers of cloth that I'm using, which is a 8-ounce S and an 8-ounce unidirectional E. I've got those both laid on and trimmed with a little bit of overlap, and I'm going to wet those out with just clear resin, using the same thing as before, where I'll dump pretty much all of it onto the board once I mix it up, and get it spread out quickly, doing about 350 grams this time. Okay, it's all wetted out. Now it's time to put on a cotton top sheet to give it some graphics. Okay, so I have got the cotton on, and you can see these wrinkles here. I've now put the vinyl sheet on, and all I'm doing with a clean squeegee, I'm just drawing this out, starting somewhere in the middle, and I'm taking all the wrinkles out, all the bubbles, and I'm going to keep doing this till it's really smooth. You'll notice there's no vacuum going yet. This is what's going to be connected to the vacuum, but I'm going to do this till it's real smooth, totally stretched out nice. Then I'll seal the edges, turn on the vacuum, and then I'll keep working it and drawing the resin out and making sure there's no bubbles. Okay, everything is cured up. We can peel this off. This stuff, by the way, is vinyl that you could get at a hardware store. You might even find it at a fabric store. It gets used for things like tablecloths. And so we can just... There's the finish on the board now. We can get the occasional wrinkle, but otherwise it looks like it's still shiny and wet and it's dry. Okay, the board's been peeled off, and you can see where the fins are going to go, and you can see where the rails are. So we're going to be cutting in this area here just outside the white where the foam is that we left on, and when we do that, I'm just going to use a hacksaw because it makes a lot less mess than using some kind of power tool. Plus if you use something like a jigsaw, you might be scratching up this. You got to watch out what kind of finish you get. Now this looks good here, but actually there's a lot of very fine, sort of almost like pinholes on here. This very fine cloth that I use. Let me show some scraps. This is regular cloth, and this is the really fine S-glass that I used. I wouldn't recommend using it actually. It's very difficult to wet out. It takes a lot more to wet it out. I mean, it's doable, but I don't plan on using it a whole lot more. I don't think it's a lot of work to wet it out, and there's a little more chance for imperfections when it's done. And there's the graphic that I put in, and the foam and fiber logo, and that's on a rice paper, and that's just nice and smooth. That was what I squeegeed onto the plexiglass in the first place. Okay, so it's now been cut out just very, very roughly, and now I'm going to use the same Sureform thing, which is this item here, to shave the rails down to expose all the resin. And as far as I've got it set up here. As far as the inserts go, if I hold this to a light, I've got my trouble light hanging here. If I hold this up to a light, you can see right through it. You can see where all the inserts are. This is with the core cell that I'm using, and with pretty much any pigment and cloth that you're using, you're going to be able to see through and see where things are, so you can find your inserts. Okay, so now I've just got to do the rails, and I actually do this with the board standing up, because if you lay it down on a table or something, you might be scratching up the finish. So definitely time to wear a mask, and it's just a matter of shaving this down until we get to the and expose the rail. Now to drill out the inserts, we just use a countersink bit. As long as you can find somewhere inside the insert, the countersink will just center itself on the metal insert and do a fine job. There we are. Gotta tie that up, but it finds the insert quite nicely. Okay, I've actually just started drilling the holes. What I do is I locate where my back screw is going to go, and then I have I have a piece of plexiglass here, just a scrap, and I've got some holes. I've got a screw right here, and then my next hole is the correct spacing. So what I do is I find that screw get the screw into the hole. There we are, and then I can use that. I can line up this with a fin at the other end. I'm going to toe it in just a small amount, maybe about 1 centimeter at the other end. And now with this screw still in, I can start drilling the hole through my other guide hole. And actually what I do is I just do a small hole through it, and then I use a wood block that I've drilled with a drill press, so that I put the tip of the drill into this with the wood block over, and it just helps square everything up to the board, so that I drill my hole straight through.